Okay, good evening, everyone. Keith Murphy. I'm a fire management specialist for the Michigan DNR out of Marquette in the Upper Peninsula. We have an incident coordination center up here, and that's where I'm at. Been working for the DNR full time 25 years now, and I did 3 seasons with the DNR, so been around almost 30 years. Can't believe that. So um, time flies when it's a good job. So Um, we're going to talk about protecting your home and your property throughout the next 45 minutes or so. And then, like Ellie said, feel free to write down some questions, or we'll have time at the end to ask questions, and I'll try and answer them. But then I'm always available. Via email. If you want to send me an email, all my contact information will be at the end, and give me a few days to get back with you. Right now we're wintertime, but we're ramping up for the spring season, so we get quite busy. So with that, I'll get started. Hopefully I don't go off on tangents here. Something protecting property is what I like to talk to folks about, and I might start really just stuck on one topic, and hopefully I don't get that way, and I'll keep this moving on. So, as we start here, I just wanted to give a brief overview um, of what we have for a fire program at the Michigan DNR. So this is the state resources, and this is briefly the map is. Don't really worry about the names too much. I just wanted to show the different units on there, and I can get you in contact with anybody out there if you need that. So, looking at the state of Michigan here, you got the different colors, and those are the units we have across the state. We have 15 units statewide, and then 47 field offices or fire stations. Um, our headquarters is Lansing, where we have a chief and an assistant chief, a section manager for fire out of the Lansing office. And those folks down there oversee the aviation program we have. It's relatively small, but it packs a punch when you start bringing in unmanned aerial systems. So the drones, we're a leader in natural resource agencies in the country for a drone program. So we're doing really well there too. So um, the aviation is based out of Roscommon, actually. The program manager is there, but the supervisor sits in Lansing. So we have aircraft in Roscommon, and then we also have DNR aircraft in Newberry and Escanaba. And then the Forest Fire Experiment Station is also in Roscommon. So if you see in any of our trucks or our fire apparatus, our engines, some of our bulldozers, our specialized equipment, you can see it's pretty beefed up with armor and protection for going through the woods and bumping off a tree or two here and there to try and stop that fire. That beefing up of that equipment comes from the experiment station. So, um, and then the incident coordination centers, like I said before, I'm at Marquette. We coordinate all the fire response for the state resources in the Upper Peninsula. And then there's an incident coordination center in Roscommon that does all the state resources coordinating that fire response for the Lower Peninsula. And then the two incident coordination centers talk daily, all the time, moving resources back and forth across the state. So it's not just as you see from the colored map, you just don't stay on the west end of the Upper Peninsula. You just don't stay on the west end of the Upper Peninsula. You might end up down in that gray area in the southern Lower Peninsula if there's help needed. So we move a lot of resources between the two peninsulas when it's a big fire season, or a busy fire season, I should say. Getting back real quick to the personnel we have. We do have career firefighters, so they're forest fire officers. We have them stationed throughout state, and their job is to fight fire. So they do a lot of prevention stuff, a lot of equipment maintenance stuff, a lot of road and bridge work, grading roads. They're heavy into the cultivation program, also trying to regenerate our lands too. So it's not just fighting fire for these folks. And then we rely on, and they're required to pass fitness tests for fighting fire. It's their main job. And then we rely on, it says here in the bullets there, foresters, biologists, admin staff that they're not required to take a fitness test, but if they have an interest in fire, they can take a fitness test and come out and help us. So it's not just the full-time fire guys and gals that are the only ones fighting fire. It takes the whole state, the whole DNR to help us out. So a lot of mix of individuals that fight fire for us. The non-career firefighters, we do have some limited term positions. Sometimes they can work for us for 6 months. It all depends on funding. Sometimes they're here for 3 months during the spring season. So there's always that option. And then we do have, I don't know, you could probably call them paid volunteers that they not full time. They're not required to come in. We'll give them a call. Hey, you want to fight fire with us, or get ready for the next fire? Help us out. They can come in, and we pay them for that. And then lastly, variety of equipment for us. Lots of large engines, like I said earlier, beefed up from the Roscommon experiment station. A lot of armor on them that can go through the woods. Chasing fire down. The bulldozers chase a lot of fire down too, and they're equipped with fire plow in the back. And then we do have some specialty equipment like some wetland engines. If we start getting fire in the drought seasons of the summer, when you start getting bogs burning and those remote lightning strikes, we can get out there with some tracked vehicles. So a lot of specialty stuff we utilize throughout the season. So talked a little long on the DNR side of it, but we'll get into the structure protection and what you can do with your homes and lands here shortly. Ooh, hopefully it's gonna go. Yeah, there we go. Typical fire season for us. The last 10 years, we've been averaging 300 fire responses for roughly 4,500 acres. Now that's just the state response. So that's the DNR folks. That's not covering any federal agencies. That's not covering your local fire departments. So there's it's over 1,000 fires that are responded to in the state of Michigan a year if you put all the agencies together. So that 300 is just for the DNR the last 10 years, and it's depending on how the winter goes and what the spring is like. It goes up and down. It could be 200, it could be 500, just depending on what your drought season looks like, what your snowfall is like throughout the year, throughout the winter, and the snow melt. A lot of parameters factor into what the fire season's going to be like. Our core season is from snow melt till green up, so early June. It varies. Southern lower peninsula will green up much faster than the northern upper peninsula, due to snow, different temperatures all the way up through the latitudes. I threw spring dip in there because that's a concern where our jack pines, even red pines, a lot of our coniferous, but it's mainly jack pine, is at its lowest moisture content in May typically. And that's when you get those large catastrophic fires we get in Michigan, the crown fires. The last one for us was down in Grayling a few years ago. That was actually after coming out of the spring dip. But that ran a couple thousand acres. So the moisture content was coming up a little bit, but we did have some jack pine budworm in that area too, so that contributed to it. But It's usually that second, third week in May is when we really worry about a start in the pines because the needle moisture is so low that it doesn't take much for the fire to get up into the crowns and start having a crown fire and race across the tops. And it's we can't do nothing about it. We could throw every piece of aircraft we have at it, every firefighter at it, and it's just going to do its thing because that's what Jack Pine loves is fire. So we're at a challenge when the spring dip is occurring in the state of Michigan. We do have a lightning season a little bit, mainly in the Upper Peninsula. Lower Peninsula does get lightning strike starts, but we have if it's a droughty summer season, it's usually that Lake Superior watershed. So up in the high country, the Canadian Shield type stuff that we're getting into, North Baraga, North Marquette, up the Keweenaw, even northern Luce, northern Schoolcraft counties. It's that up closer to Lake Superior where we get a ton of lightning storms come through, and we'll run. I'm trying to think. For instance, it was fall of 2024. I think we had 17 fires on the landscape in October. And I don't know if you folks remember how dry it was that fall, and some were human caused, but a lot of them were lightning. And it was just for the Upper Peninsula, 17 ongoing fires is really keeping you busy, where you have to mop up and keep those fires in check. And that was all from the lightning storms that came through. A majority of them were, and that's talking about that fall season. It's not as significant as the spring, but you can get a decent fall season across the entire state, depending on drought and when those fall rains finally come in. Uh, and another big topic here is assistance to Western states and Canada. So once we green up, we'll start releasing some of our folks to go help out other parts of the country if they're really hurting for fires. And even Canada, we have the Great Lakes Forest Fire Compact agreements with Manitoba, Ontario, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan. So we'll head up to Canada sometimes, help those folks out when they're in dire needs. And we'll help out the Western states when they're chasing all kinds of fire after we have greened up. We always keep folks back. So we can't just empty out the entire state of, or the state of Michigan, the DNR. Well, we will keep folks back because we always have to protect the state. So it's a good opportunity to send folks out. Sometimes you see very active fire where you learn a ton of stuff out there. Fighting fire out there is quite a bit different. You mix the mountains in topography involved. Really challenges our folks, and they come back better firefighters when they finish. No, I'm not getting to the home stuff and the protecting your lands. I've been talking about more stuff on how the DNR is set up. So we'll get moving into home protection and property protection here. Kind of how did we get here? All these large fires you see on the news, all the fires that we're heading out west for. We have large fires in state. Wisconsin has some, Minnesota has some big ones. So why how are we getting there? It was after the fires of 1910 out west where huge swaths of land were destroyed by large fires. So that put the emphasis on a major suppression effort. So we were always stomping out every fire and trying to stop every fire at the smallest it could be. Granted, you never got them as small as you wanted, but all fire was bad, so you had to put it all out. And we're learning now that with all that buildup you have, even in state here, or across the entire country, maybe that wasn't at least the most beneficial thing to do is to stop all fire because now we have huge fuel loadings across the entire country that pose problems trying to put them out now. So, um, talking here, fire on the landscape. Now I'm talking about why is it a good thing, and we can reduce the fuels, fuel breaks, and we'll talk about this. Wildlife habitat. We do a lot of prescribed burning for wildlife habitat, and it's keeping that the thicker decadent forest kind of at bay when we keep doing those return intervals of prescribed burning to help out the wildlife habitat or reduce the fuels for catastrophic wildfires. Do fire is a good thing for tree planting, right? We talked about the jack pine, regenerate jack pine if you want it. We do a lot of burning on slash burning for pine regeneration. So we'll get rid of that after the timber harvest. We'll try and burn out those tops if it's not whole tree harvesting and or chipping, and we'll get rid of those tops so it's easier on the planting crews. It's easier on our planting equipment to get trees back in the ground. Another good thing for fire is invasive controls. So, I know downstate does a ton of it, and we have it up here now, but it's the Phragmites. If you're familiar with that, there's other invasives that we burn for too. But the Phragmites that chokes out a lot of our cattails, our native cattails, poses a huge problem for the aquatics in waterfall. So we're trying to do a lot of burning, keep that Phragmites at bay. Um, Threatened and endangered species is another why fire is good for some species. I think, for instance, downstate is the warbler, Kirtland's warbler. The habitat they have burned for that, the jack pines from 4 to 20 feet roughly. So they like that young jack pine to thrive in, and that warbler is coming back pretty good now because of the fire we've put on the ground from the DNR to the Forest Service to anybody doing that burning. And in forest foraging production, if you want to know where the good blueberry habitats are or morel mushrooms, ask a DNR person that has been doing some prescribed burning. I don't know if they'll give you every good spot, but they probably will tip you off to some good areas where you can go pick blueberries the next year or morels to get some good mushroom picking in or berry picking. So getting into more meat of this presentation here, we talk about the homeowner preparations that you folks can do around your homes, around your cabins. Help your neighbors out, even talk to your family members about prepping their homes, because it makes it a whole heck of a lot easier for us to do something if everything's prepped prior to that fire getting in towards your property. Talk about fuel breaks. We do those more on state land, break up them large tracts of jack pine, for instance. It'll be more difficult. We can't do it on private land, but you folks could, or there's options out there to get grants to some of the landowners that can do some fuel break work. Shaded fuel breaks are a new thing, not a newer thing, past 10, 15 years, I should say, where you don't have to, do that big wide open fuel break. And I'll have some pictures on here for shaded fuel breaks. So you don't have it, that ugly looking clear cut throughout around your entire property. You'll still have some residual trees standing, so it doesn't look as bad for the aesthetics. I'll briefly show you a little information where we get our stuff from and where you can get more research on this, seeing that I only have less than an hour to present all this stuff, and I could spend days, a week on all this stuff for everybody. And then I'll just won't dive too much into the laws or statutes, but just talk about what we can and can't do when we're doing some burning of natural vegetation. So on homeowner preps, I had a couple slides to talk. But here's the four things I want to cover. Your entrance to your home itself, the landscaping around your home is critical, and then the perimeter of your around your home, excuse me, or your land. You can go way out and do a lot of work to keep the fire on the ground and keep it more manageable. Home ignition zones we'll talk about. There's immediate, intermediate, and extended. So that's that home zone of the 5 to 30 feet, the 30 to 100, and the 100 plus. We'll show you some diagrams on what you can do there to help out around your house, your buildings, and your land itself. And then the Firewise program used to be funded by Michigan State, and it's not anymore. So the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA.org, has a bunch of Firewise resources available for folks to do some research on how you can prep your home. So, and I'll cover a little bit of that today, but I just want you to have that website in your back pocket, just in case you want to really dive into this stuff on prepping for wildfires. We talked about, the access, the egress to your home. That's pretty critical. Road width, clearance, the surface. So I'm sure you've seen uh, some of our apparatus, our equipment, our engines that they're pretty big. And even the structural engines from the local fire departments, very large. If you have that, I know it's an aesthetically pleasing driveway coming into your home. So you got to fold it over, maples over it, or even the pines that are touching, and you can get your SUV in there without scratching it, but that's about it. So that makes it pretty challenging for our fire departments and the DNR to get in there and get in quick to do an assessment on your home to see if it is actually defendable. And we'll talk about this here in a little bit. So it is nice if it's wide with a couple of turnouts, so people can pass. And for instance, DNR is coming in with their large 4x4 engine, and there's people coming out. You don't want to meet on that one-way road. And it's going to be chaotic with fire coming towards you. So if you have those turnouts, that makes it easier to get around, get the folks in and out of there safely. Talking about the clearance, high trucks, even the local fire department trucks are quite high. They're built for the concrete, but they are coming anyways. So, you know, not much overhang in the cities except power lines. So, when those trucks come in, say in the wild and urban interface out in the country where the structures are intermixed with the timber, that poses the problem with some of these larger vehicles. And then just the surface of the road too. If you have a soft road, a lot of these trucks are not 4x4 capable. Some of the local fire departments, like I said, they're more structural in-town fire apparatus. Our trucks are four-wheel drive, and the local fire departments have some four-wheel drive trucks. Their brush trucks are going to be four-wheel drive, so they'll get in. Might If it's a soft road, we'll probably tear it up, and we could talk about that after the fire to what can be done to repair some of that stuff. But if you had a good surface road, gravel road, compacted with good gravel, that'd be great to get us in and out of there. The fire numbers, hopefully you have them, and they're visible from the main road. That's always a challenge. If we're at night, we're in smoky conditions, and um, there's an emergency at your house. We're not going to be able to see that fire number. How are we going to get to that? and make a stand in there. Come get a person for emergency evacuation, and then make a stand at your house. We might have met you out on the road, and I'm at W8075 Birch Road. Well, and you say your place is defendable. Well, we can't find that because we don't have a fire number. So makes it so much easier from the ambulance, from a non-fire emergency, all the way to the fire emergency if you have those fire numbers visible for us. Um, Dead ends, yeah, those are one way in, one way out. Myself as a firefighter, that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. When you only got one way in, and if something goes bad behind you, you're probably not going to get out. So, and I know dead end roads, that's going to be tough for folks. Say you're on a lake, for instance. You're going to have one way into your cabin and one way out. Um, but we can talk about the sizable areas for the apparatus, for our equipment. If you have defensible space around that dead end road, maybe it's okay that we can still make a stand there. So um you don't have fuel right up to your house. There's not flammable vegetation right up to your house. If we have some cleared out areas, we can make a stand there. And that's we'll dive a little bit more into it when I show you some of the diagrams here. I think the next one is the home zone. So, oh, I gotta make sure yeah, there. So, if you can see this is right from Firewise and NFPA. I always use this one because it's the simplest diagram that I think I can explain to folks. So, we talked about it a few slides ago. Here's your main structure. You do have a garage, so your main house, and you have your immediate zone of 0 to 5, and then there's the intermediate zone of 5 to 30 feet, and then your extended zone 30 to 100 feet. So in your immediate zone, you want, and you can see from this picture, there's not a lot of coniferous ornamental type trees along the base or in that 0 to 5 foot. They have some rocks here, some stone. You have a nice concrete pad deck. That's just wonderful. Um, this is probably non-flammable plants, or you don't want to, for instance, you don't want to have like an oily residue plant all around the base of your house. That's not going to do us very good. One lumber land in there, and that can torch up right away and really pose problems for your home itself. Um, and I'll dive more into the bullets here in a minute. I should get back to the zones here. That intermediate, excuse me, zone is that 0 to 5 to 30, and not very thick timber around it, right? You do have a few ornamental brush maybe here, and then you have a tree here. It's just not thick, dog hair thick jack pine in this intermediate zone, right? This is what I was talking about. See, this is our one way in, and we're still, looking at the way the timber is here, and it's pretty sporadic. So a big crown fire is not going to come roaring into this structure, the outbuilding, the garage there, or the residence itself. It mainly looks like hardwoods. Maybe you get out to the past the extended zone here, and you are getting into some conifers, so that's okay because it's not the density of the canopy is not that thick out there with conifer, right? So, getting back just beyond the intermediate zone, staggered trees here and there. We can make a stand here because it should be a less intense fire. It'll be burning on the surface, and it'll be a surface fire burning the grass. So this is a defendable home where we can bring our apparatus in, make a 20-point turn here because we're so big, point it out, but then we can string some hose out and make a defense here. Um, and then as you get beyond the extended zone, it's not real thick timber. So that's how I wanted to point this one out for. As we get to the bullets here, building materials. I'm just assuming this is an animation here, but it looks like a metal roof, so that's awesome. We had one when I first started out. There was a homeowner association that would not let anybody put a roof on except um, cedar shake shingles or cedar shake roofs, and we had to fight with that homeowners association for quite some time to get that rule lifted so they could put asphalt shingles on or metal. But yeah, at the start when I first started up there in that area, it was cedar shake shingles and in jack pine. So you can imagine what that does. Even embers doesn't have to be a big roaring crown fire to hit that roof and pose problems. Decks, a lot of folks have wood decks. The big thing is underneath those decks, traps a lot of leaves and stuff throughout the years. A lot of times, the home will survive the initial fire front, but it's where those embers land is what burns a house down. So if we have to retreat out of areas like this, we'll retreat out, let the main fire front pass through, and then we'll go back in. And more times than not, there's those glowing embers are starting places like underneath the deck on fire because there was embers that landed into those, that pocket of dried leaves underneath the deck. Um, Attic and crawl space, right? The vents, hopefully you have those screened in. Those aren't wide open. That's where embers can get in. The eaves again, box in your eaves, your soffit and fascia. Hopefully that's all boxed in. Yeah, we can't. You know what? If a fire front is coming through, the wind's pushing that way. It's just funneling. If those eaves are open, it's just funneling that heat, funneling those embers up and underneath your roof, and poses a huge problem for us. Roofing materials I kind of talked about already. Make sure it's adequate. We don't want the cedar shake roof shingles. Vegetation next to structures. I did talk about that a little bit too. I know I'm running a little long already, but you can research that non-flammable vegetation if you want to do, those rock gardens around your houses. You can research that to get less flammable or non-flammable, I should say, vegetation around your base of your homes. LP tanks, your propane tanks, hopefully they are a ways away from your structures and they don't have jack pine leaves. Hopefully it's manicured around those. I've been on fires where they vent off and it scares you because you don't know how big the explosion is going to be. Hopefully everything just vents off and it just shoots off the relief valve. So it's not fun when those are flexing and going off. So power lines are big too. It could burn the power pole down, and that's what causes your garage to burn down. It was the darn power line. The fire front made it through. So pay attention to your power lines, where they are at around your structures. And then you can talk to the power company too about that if they have to thin out their right of way and stuff to make sure there's no trees that would land on that power line or snap that power line. Lack of water is a big thing. Around Michigan, we are fortunate. We have a lot of water, but there are those drier. I keep talking about jack pine. It's grows in a dry site, as everybody probably knows on this call here. That sometimes not a lot of water in the jack pine country, so we got to move water from a long ways away to help out and defend these homes. And I briefly talked about safety zones for firefighters. Like I said, this animation here is defendable in my eyes, and I wouldn't have a problem staying there if we had a good fire coming at it. Here's a little bit better on talking about our tree spacing and reducing the fuels, eliminating ladder fuels. So this is just looking, the immediate zone, the intermediate, and then the extended zone, the third ring, and then the fourth ring is beyond that extended zone. And I just wanted this one out here to show you what I was talking about with the tree spacing. Ladder fuels, there are some ladder fuels we're talking about, ways that the fire can climb from the surface up through the canopies of the trees. So, if there's dead branches along these, for instance, let's say this is a spruce or a balsam fir, um, if there's dead branches all the way to the ground, it's easy for that surface fire to cross into here, torch out this tree, send embers into your structure. So that's where you want to eliminate the fuels reduction, eliminate those ladder fuels. And then the spacing, you see where in this intermediate zone, it'd be nice to have your standing timber 18 feet apart. I know it's um, probably not what you want to have on a beautiful home site that you folks probably all have, but from a fire defense side of things, it makes it a heck of a lot easier on the firefighters if we don't have that full canopy coming at your structures. And then as you get out to the extended, they're 12 feet, then beyond that 6 feet, hopefully pruned up. These are hardwoods, so really hardwoods are, you have the leaf fall, so you're worried about that in the spring when stuff dries out, and then the leaf fall in the fall. So summertime, not really worried about hardwood fires for the most part. But if it's super dry, it will carry through there. It just be the fire behavior would be quite less and quite slower. But if this was all solid jack pine in this intermediate zone, this would not be a defendable house. And we'll talk a little bit about this here shortly. What I'm talking about defendable, getting firefighters in here, getting trucks in here and defending this home. Solid jack pine throughout here. There's no way if you had a fire coming from right to left, there's no way you could remove all the fuels and cut the trees 18 feet apart and get that done before the fire front hits towards the house. So this is why we're working on folks doing this prepping before the fire gets to you. This home checklist is another Firewise document, and it's just the simple steps to take around your house. And I talked about a lot of this already, but we can review it again. Clean your roofs and gutters. They catch everything. You'll see that, the pine needles in the valleys of your roofs. Your water's not draining too good out of your rain gutters because they're chock full of leaves and needles. And then once it dries out, there's a new fuel bed to start your structure on fire, to start your home on fire. Repairing shingles, roof tiles. You don't want anything getting underneath those, penetrating. Vents, I talked about vents already, putting some screening up on the gable ends there. Any openings, if you don't have that soffit boxed in, you could put some vents in, just some screened in portions there if you want. Just recommendations. We're not forcing you to do anything. It's just some stuff that I've seen that has helped. Any window screens or broken windows, you want to get those replaced. I talked about below decks, where the leaves and debris can accumulate. It'd be nice to have that all boxed in, or at least screened in, so you don't have to be cleaning under there all the time. And then moving flammable materials away from structures. Right. So I know the firewood piles are pretty easy to have right next to the house, but heck, it's, spring, summer, and fall. So you're probably not going to be burning a lot of wood. during those seasons, so you probably can put your wood pile away from the house. I know the wintertime it's a heck of a lot easier to, so you don't have to get all suited up to haul a bunch of wood. You want it right next to your house. So if you can move that away, move propane tanks away, gasoline storage, if you have that, you're living off grid maybe. Don't have your gas tanks or your gas cans right next to your structures. Have them separated if you can. Um, and then again, this last one, remove anything stored underneath decks and porches, anything that could trap embers, trap heat. Extra lawn chairs or trying to think if you stuff kayaks underneath your deck or something. All that can trap heat, trap embers, and pose a problem to your structures. I got about a little over 5 minutes going here. I think I should be able to make it. I might have to speed up a little bit here. These are just photos I took from some of the websites, the government websites. So this was from the Fish and Wildlife Service up in Alaska. This would be pretty, extensive. Say you own this 10 acres of land, or even 20, and if you wanted to make a big 300-foot fuel break, more power to you if it's your land. But this is what I know the Scenic Refuge in the UP has done fuel break work along their boundary. So this is what we're talking about when we're doing fuel breaks. And then here you can see this thick timber and then a little bit of topography here too. But we can make a stand seeing that this fuel break has already been installed and made on the landscape here. So we can actually come down here and fire off this and stop the oncoming. Say the fire's coming from right to left on the screen here. We can actually fire this off and eliminate the fuel from that advancing fire coming at us. So it works in multiple ways to make defensible ground for us. Here's what I'm getting into the shaded fuel breaks, and you've seen that in the intermediate zones and the extended zones. You don't have to make a big clear cut like that. Our previous one was right. That it makes it easier to defend, that's for sure, because nothing's left. But it's that eyesore, that aesthetically pleasing view is a little bit better when you can go to a shaded fuel break, right? That um, 30 30-foot spacing between trees, 50-foot spacing between trees. What happens here, say, for instance, again, fire's coming from right to left, pretty thick on that right side, right? Um, right. And you're going to have crown fire easily coming through here. Do have some old man's beard on these trees, it looks like. And it's pretty thick. So you could have crown fire easily coming through. But then where does it go when it's moving to the left of the screen here? It's going to drop out of the crowns. Granted, is it going to individually torch some of these out? Probably, but it's not going to be this sustained crown one coming across all the way across this two-track trail here. So we use a lot of these out west, and I got a picture coming up where we did one a couple years ago. It's a little more aesthetically pleasing on the eyes when you don't have to throw a big wide clear cut in there, and that fire can get knocked down to the surface where we can pick it up easier. Another shaded break here, field break, and then the pruning. I talked about this on those little animated diagrams, and this is what I'm talking about, ladder fields, right? There's no way, I shouldn't say no way, but very limited chances of surface fire getting up to these crowns, right? Because all the ladder fuels have been eliminated. So, excuse me. This is what we're looking at when we're trying to eliminate those ladder fuels. And before I get to the picture, on talk about on-scene assessment, right? If we're coming in there, local fire departments are coming in, Forest Service coming in, firefighters are coming in, I should say. We're going to do a quick structure triage. So there's four sections to structure triage. and you got defensible prep and hold. So you do some prepping around the house, and you can stay there and hold without being hurt or getting burned over. Um, the defensible standalone is we come in there. There's, for instance, green grass all the way up to the structure. Nothing flammable around. We're probably gonna just mark that as standalone and go on to the next structure. Um, there's non-defensible prep and leave, so we will do some work um, to the structure or around the structure, but there's just too much work to do with the advancing fire coming where we we don't have enough not enough manpower to clean that up and make it defensible. So we'll prep it and then get out of there before the fire front comes. For we have to get out for firefighter safety. And then the ones that are nestled right, jack pine right up next to the eaves, all the way around. Ladder fields present, a lot of dead and down material on the ground. It would take a week to prep it. Those are the non-defensible. We just drive by and we'll come back in after the fire front comes through. And it's a judgment call, but we're trained on that, and it's firefighter safety, right? We can rebuild structures. I know a lot is lost, that from family heirlooms and stuff, but you can't replace life. So that's why we have to err on the side of caution for firefighter safety. Um, I talked a little bit about that. Safety zones needed. So if there's not a safety zone in and around that structure, our folks aren't going to stay there. We're trained to you fight fire with communications, escape routes, and safety zones. If there's no safety zones, you shouldn't be fighting fire. So that's a big thing too. The smoke byproducts is a huge concern. Say, for instance, that outbuilding catches on fire and who knows what was in there burning. We do not have SCBAs in wildland fire. So we're eating that smoke all the time, and that's bad stuff. So that's a huge concern too. If a bunch of plastics are burning and aluminum burning, so not good. Um, and it's always challenging to get those people to leave that are defending their house too. And I know the reason why they're defending it, but should leave it to the trained professionals. But it makes it pretty chaotic when you're trying to stop the fire and trying to protect the citizens that are in the way staying. So always a challenge for us. And then as you look on the picture here, finally get to that. That's one of the shaded field breaks we did out in Oregon a couple of years ago. So just starting that out. So this is a wilderness area above the railroad tracks here. And we were just starting with this shaded field break all the way across. The forest did not want clear cut, which a lot of people don't. So it's great. We'll do the shaded field break, and it comes down and yeah, throws embers across. It probably won't be a fire front, a crown fire. It won't be a crown fire because you don't have enough crown to keep that crown sustained into the next batch of timber. Um, Information available. Um, so I'll just give you some of the websites here. Michigan is michigan.gov/DNR, and you can look under fire management. I already talked about nfpa.org, the Firewise USA. Just when you get to nfpa.org, search Firewise, and there's tons of stuff you can look at for your home and your property. There's community wildfire protection plans out there. Your counties should be doing them, and there is funding available. I don't know how much funding would come to a private individual, but say, for instance, the county can get some funding for fuel breaks, and they can start fuel breaks around your subdivision, stuff like that. So that's always there. And the same thing for community wildfire defense grants. Work with your local authorities, uh, any of the township boards, and talk to them about CWPPs and CWDGs. the fire chief will be aware of this stuff too, so you can reach out to the fire chief also, or any DNR office if there's one near you. Real quick, I see all these popping up. So, um, I look at for up here, the Upers, Marquette, National Weather Service is good information for fire weather, and they'll post some cautionary weather parameters out there, red flag warnings. Great Lakes Fire and Fuels is another one that gives us fire danger. So that's a real good site if you want to see what the day's fire danger is. And then burn permits, michigan.gov/burn permit for allowing burning or not that throughout the day. Right now, seeing that the ground is completely snow covered across the majority of the state, I'm thinking. I haven't been down in the southern lower in a while, but no burn permits are needed at this time. And also, I just always throw in there, consider composting instead of burning. And the open burning laws, really, I just wanted to talk about the statutes and the laws. You're only supposed to be burning leaves, grass, twigs, brush. We're not supposed to be burning the couch or any plastic or any garbage. It gets into some EGLE, environmental quality issues and air quality standards. So, with that, I'm at the last one for questions. Sorry, I ran through the last three a little bit, and I threw this picture on here. You can see what defensible space does. And it really wasn't a lot of defensible space. You can see along this county road. We lost 33 structures on this fire. 16, 17 years ago. But we just couldn't do anything about it. If you look, to the center here, these jack pine right up along these houses. So a little bit of yard saved these ones over here. So that's kind of what I wanted to show from this picture. So, all right, that's what I had, Ellie. It might have went a little fast at the end. So